This video by ABN Painting shows the process of how we repair cracks, holes and chipped off concrete prior to painting the pool deck. Please keep in mind that we do not do small repairs by itself, and if you are looking for someone to fix a couple of cracks or a couple of holes on your pool deck without painting an entire deck, that is not something that we do, so please do not call us for that. However, if you need an entire deck painted and there's some minor repairs that needed to be done prior to that, that is exactly what we do, and we would be happy to give you an estimate if you give us a call. To repair this crack, we're using a putty knife to apply the repair material, and then with a wet sponge we blend in the repaired area with the rest of the deck. Usually there is a wait time between applying the material and using the wet sponge, and the time depends on a couple of things. First, the temperature outside, and second, how thick or thin we applied the material to the deck. Usually the wait time is somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. This is the crack that we were fixing, and this is prior to repair, and this is after we finished painting the pool deck. Here we're fixing a crack that is in between two concrete slabs. We're using concrete filler to repair it. We squeeze it out of the tube using caulking gun, and then the best way to spread it evenly is to use a wet rag. However, in this particular case we are using a finger. That can work too, but the wet rag probably be the best thing to use for spreading it evenly and getting rid of any excessive material. On this pool deck we apply repair material using disposable brush. The repair material needs to get inside the crack, so this type of technique can work only for very small cracks. If the crack is larger or medium size, a putty knife would have to be used to apply the repair material. And then we use a wet sponge to get rid of any excessive material after we're done brushing it on. On this pool deck there's a bunch of little holes next to the edge of the deck, and there's too many of them and they're too close to each other to be fixed individually. So for this repair we're going to apply repair material to the entire edge of the pool deck. We use Excel surfaces texture for almost all repairs that we do on pool decks. It's easy to apply, easy to spread, easy to blend in. It works great in every aspect. If, for example, you're watching this video for the purposes of do-it-yourself repair and this material is not available for sale in your area, there are other materials that can be used for repair. For example, rapid set cement mix that can be found in any Home Depot can work just as well. The difference between rapid set and Excel texture is that cement mix will have a little bit rougher grit, so it's going to be a little bit harder to blend it in with the rest of the deck after repair, but overall it can work just as good. Now we're using a wet sponge to blend in the repaired area with the rest of the deck. This is the look of the deck after the repair, and this is after we finished with painting. A very common place for the concrete to be chipped off is around the edges of the pool deck next to the water. Here we do repair in exact same way as we do it on any other place on a pool deck. We apply repair material with the putty knife, wait for a few minutes, and then use a wet sponge to blend it in. The only difference is here we're holding a piece of cardboard underneath the area that we repair, and that prevents the repair material from falling into the water. On this pool deck we are fixing a few places where the concrete is chipped off, and after applying the repair material with the putty knife, we are using the edge of the putty knife to make a few holes in the area that we repaired to create the effect of texture. After that we are using a wet sponge to blend in the repaired area. This is a close-up look of the repair that we were working on, and these little holes made with the putty knife will help the repaired area blend in better. This is how the pool deck looked after repair, and this is after we finished with painting. On this pool deck there's a big chunk of concrete is missing, and we pour in the repair material in the hole and give it approximately an hour to dry. After that we are using a putty knife to apply more repair material on top. Then we use a wet sponge to blend in the repaired area. With a putty knife we make little holes to create the effect of texture. This is the look of the pool deck before the repair, and this is after we finished with painting. Making little holes with a putty knife in the repaired area is not the only way to create the texture effect. Here we're using a bucket that has little holes in the bottom to pour the repair material on top of the area that we repaired, and then we're using a putty knife to knock it down. Using a bucket with the holes in the bottom may work well for a medium-sized area, but for a smaller repair where more precision is required, a better way to do it is using a glove. At the end of each finger on the glove there is a piece of tape wrapped around to allow for a better flow of texture from the glove. And here we can be very precise and apply as much or as little texture as we want to a very specific area. After we applied the texture, we are going to use a drywall knife to knock it down. Very gently, we are going to use the sponge approximately 10 minutes after we applied the texture. On this pool deck, we're fixing the area where texture is coming off, and the very first thing to do is to make sure there is no loose material, so we scrape everything thoroughly. We use the broom to sweep larger chips, and then a leaf blower to get rid of any dust. After scraping and dusting off the area, we apply the base coat of repair material. After waiting for approximately 15 minutes, we use a wet sponge to smooth it out. After we use the sponge, we give it a few more minutes to dry, and then apply a coat of texture. When we apply the texture, we use exact same material as we used for the base coat. It's just we prepare the mix approximately half as thin as we do it for the base coat. This is the area how it looked before the repair, and this is after we finished with painting.